In a bustling city filled with ambition and opportunity, John and Mark had been friends since childhood. Both had dreams of success, but their paths took different turns. John, a naturally optimistic and driven person, focused on building a career in finance, while Mark, who had always struggled with jealousy, took a different approach. As John climbed the corporate ladder, he shared his journey with Mark. He often spoke about his promotions, the networking events he attended, and the financial strategies that had helped him succeed. At first, Mark seemed genuinely happy for John, but deep down, a sense of envy began to brew. Instead of viewing John's achievements as inspiration, Mark allowed his jealousy to overshadow their friendship. One day, John excitedly called Mark to share some fantastic news. "I just landed a big client. This could be a game changer for me," he said, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. Instead of celebrating, Mark responded with a curt, "That's great, but you know that clients can be fickle. You shouldn't get too comfortable." John felt a pang of disappointment. He brushed it off, hoping it was just a bad day for Mark. However, as weeks went by, it became clear that Mark's negativity was a pattern. Whenever John shared good news, Mark would counter with doubt. "Are you sure you're ready for a promotion? The competition is fierce," he'd say, or "that investment might not be as promising as you think." One evening they met for dinner. John, eager to discuss a new business idea he had, could sense Mark's dismissive attitude before even speaking. "I think I want to start my own consultancy," John said, excitement bubbling in his voice. Mark leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You really think you have what it takes? There are already so many firms out there. What makes you think you can stand out?" Each time John attempted to express his aspirations, Mark's comments cut deeper. What once was a supportive friendship now felt like a constant battle against Mark's pessimism. John began to question his abilities. Was he really cut out for this line of work? Was starting his own business even a good idea? As the weeks turned into months, John noticed a significant change in his own motivation. He started hesitating before sharing his accomplishments, afraid of Mark's negative responses. The once bright spark of ambition he had slowly dimmed. He found himself avoiding conversations about work and even started neglecting networking opportunities. One day, John decided he had had enough. He reached out to Mark, requesting a serious talk. Sitting across from each other, John took a deep breath. "Mark, I need to talk to you about something important. I feel like every time I share my successes, you respond with negativity. It's affecting me." Mark frowned, defensive. "I'm just being realistic. The world is tough, John. I'm trying to help you." John realized that this was the crux of their problem. Mark's so-called help was rooted in his own insecurities and fears. "But instead of helping me, you're pulling me down. I need support, not doubt." The conversation hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. After a long pause, Mark finally said, "I guess I've been jealous. I didn't want to see you succeed more than me." Feeling a mix of sadness and understanding, John replied, "I want the best for both of us. We should lift each other up, not tear each other down." From that day forward, John made a conscious decision to limit his interactions with Mark, realizing that surrounding himself with negative influences would only hinder his growth. He sought out relationships with those who inspired him and encouraged his dreams. It was a hard lesson learned, but ultimately it propelled John toward the success he had always envisioned, while Mark remained trapped in his own cycle of negativity. In our daily lives, we often encounter individuals who, intentionally or not, drain our energy, undermine our confidence, and hinder our progress. These negative influences can subtly derail our path to success and fulfillment. Understanding these types of people is crucial for our mental well-being. Stoicism teaches us the importance of focusing on what we can control, and that includes the company we keep. By identifying these detrimental personalities, we can make informed choices about who we allow into our lives. Throughout this video, we will discuss the 10 types of people that decreases you instead to increasing you. We'll delve into each type, highlighting their behaviors and the ways they can undermine your self-esteem and ambitions. We'll draw on Stoic wisdom to help you distance ourselves from these influences, creating a more supportive environment that nurtures your potential. So, if you're ready to elevate your life and relationships, let's embark on this journey together. By the end of this video, you'll be better equipped to recognize and navigate these types of people, allowing you to foster relationships that truly uplift and inspire you. Number 1. The drama seeker. In the realm of Stoicism, inner peace and rational thought are paramount. However, not all individuals respect or contribute to these ideals. One of the most toxic types of people that can negatively influence your well-being and growth is the drama seeker. This person thrives on conflict, emotional upheaval, and chaos. They are always in the midst of some controversy, be it personal, social, or even trivial. For a Stoic who values tranquility and self-control, the presence of a drama seeker can be incredibly disruptive. A classic example of a drama seeker in modern times is someone who constantly stirs conflict among their social circle. Imagine a workplace scenario where an employee, we'll call her Linda, is always in the middle of gossip. Every time something minor happens, Linda exaggerates the situation, creates tension among colleagues, and seems to delight in the anxiety she causes. Instead of focusing on her work or seeking solutions, she amplifies small misunderstandings into major crises, pulling everyone into her web of chaos. This constant need for drama not only affects the immediate atmosphere, but also slowly erodes the mental peace of those around her. Stoicism teaches that we should aim to control what we can and let go of what we cannot. Drama seekers, however, thrive on the exact opposite mindset. They feed off instability and uncertainty. Rather than cultivating a calm and rational response to life's challenges, they heighten emotional responses and create unnecessary turmoil. This behavior directly contrasts with the Stoic principle of keeping a steady mind in the face of external events. When you engage with a drama seeker, it becomes harder to maintain your inner calm because they constantly introduce stress and disorder into your life, pushing you to react emotionally rather than thoughtfully. The danger of being close to a drama seeker is that their behavior can subtly start influencing your own actions. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you're frequently around someone who thrives on drama, you may find yourself becoming more reactive, anxious, or even drawn into conflicts that don't concern you. The drama seeker's behavior can spread like a contagion, making you more likely to get caught up in arguments or unnecessary emotional upheaval, even when you usually strive for peace and rationality. In Stoicism, there's an emphasis on the importance of emotional detachment from things that don't serve your personal growth. Drama seekers make this incredibly difficult because their constant emotional roller coaster drags others into their problems. Epictetus taught that it is not external events that upset us, but rather our judgments about them. Drama seekers want you to make emotional judgments. They pull you into their emotional reactions and push you to take sides in disputes that often have no true basis in reality. By becoming entangled in their chaos, you lose sight of what is important in your own life, distracted by issues that don't deserve your attention. One way to protect yourself from the influence of a drama seeker is to establish clear boundaries. Boundaries are essential in Stoicism for protecting your inner peace. If someone continually brings chaos and conflict into your life, it is crucial to distance yourself emotionally from their drama. This doesn't mean you have to cut them off completely, but you should limit how much time and energy you invest in their problems. By doing this, you can keep your focus on what truly matters, your own well-being and personal development. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, once warned against the dangers of bad company. He said, "Withdraw into yourself as far as you can. Associate with those who will make a better man of you." Drama seekers are the antithesis of this advice. They do not encourage growth, stability, or peace. Instead, they pull you away from self-reflection and rational thought, keeping you entangled in their emotional volatility. For a Stoic, it's essential to recognize these types of individuals and choose to spend time with people who uplift you rather than drag you into their emotional storms. Consider a situation where a drama seeker consistently involves you in their disputes. A friend, let's call him Mark, is always calling you to complain about his latest argument with his partner. Every time the problem seems exaggerated, and he's looking for validation or for you to take sides. This can be emotionally exhausting. While you want to support your friend, you eventually realize that Mark thrives on these conflicts, using them as a way to keep attention focused on him. This cycle of drama becomes a significant distraction in your own life. In this case, applying Stoic principles means recognizing that you cannot control Mark's behavior, but you can control your own reaction. By gently setting boundaries, you can distance yourself from the emotional turmoil without abandoning the friendship entirely. The drama seeker is a person who drains more from your life than they contribute. Their constant need for conflict and chaos creates an environment where it's difficult to focus on personal growth, peace, or even rational decision-making. The more time you spend around a drama seeker, the harder it becomes to stay true to the Stoic ideals of tranquility and self-mastery. Therefore, it's essential to recognize these individuals in your life and take steps to protect your mental and emotional health, so you can continue on your path toward personal improvement. If you found this video helpful, please like it and drop your comments below. We want to hear your experiences. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more empowering content and share this video with friends who might benefit from it. Let's build a community focused on growth and positivity together. Let's continue our journey. Number 2, the envious person. In Stoicism, one of the greatest impediments to peace and personal growth is allowing negative influences into our lives. One such influence is the envious person, someone who is never content with their own achievements and harbors resentment toward others' successes. This person diminishes your sense of accomplishment, making you feel undeserving or guilty for your achievements. Envy is not just destructive to the person who feels it, but also to those who are its target, draining energy and creating unnecessary conflict. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate inner peace, focus on what we can control, and maintain emotional resilience. However, being in the presence of an envious person can make these tasks far more difficult. Take, for instance, a situation in a workplace where a young professional named Julia had just received a promotion. She was thrilled with the recognition of her hard work and felt a sense of accomplishment. However, one of her colleagues, Emma, could not hide her envy. Instead of congratulating Julia, Emma made subtle remarks to other colleagues, implying that Julia's promotion was due to favoritism, not merit. These constant whispers and backhanded comments created an atmosphere of unease, slowly chipping away at Julia's sense of joy and achievement. What should have been a moment of pride for Julia became tainted with self-doubt and stress, all because of the envious behavior of someone else. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of focusing on our own actions and avoiding comparisons with others. The envious person, however, thrives on comparison. Their mindset is grounded in scarcity, where another person's success feels like a personal failure to them. This attitude can make them act in ways that undermine your confidence, subtly or overtly, in an attempt to level the playing field. For someone trying to live a stoic life, being around this type of person can be incredibly draining. You might start to question your worth or feel guilty for your achievements, even though they are a result of your own hard work and dedication. In Stoicism, we are taught that external opinions and judgments are not within our control, and therefore, we should not let them affect our inner peace. However, the constant presence of an envious person can wear down even the most rational of minds. They may not outright attack you, but through passive-aggressive behavior, gossip, or minimizing your successes, they can create an atmosphere of negativity. This is not only harmful to your emotional well-being, but also counterproductive to your personal growth. You may find yourself expending energy defending your achievements or trying to explain your worth to someone who is not willing to see it. In doing so, you are distracted from focusing on what truly matters, your own growth and contentment. A key Stoic principle is the idea of living according to nature, which means accepting the course of events and focusing on the things we can control, such as our own character and actions. Envious people, however, live in opposition to this principle. They constantly resist the success of others and focus on what they lack rather than what they can improve. Their behavior can lead to toxic relationships, where instead of celebrating mutual progress, they create a sense of rivalry and resentment. For a Stoic, it's important to recognize this behavior and distance oneself from it, as it threatens to erode your own sense of gratitude and contentment. One of the most harmful aspects of an envious person is how they often operate under the guise of subtlety. They may appear to support you on the surface, but their envy manifests in small ways. Sarcastic comments, diminishing your success, or celebrating when you encounter failure. This can be particularly damaging because it's hard to pinpoint or address directly without seeming overly sensitive or confrontational. Over time, however, these small jabs can accumulate and start to affect how you see yourself. You may begin to internalize their envy, questioning whether you truly deserve your achievements. This is precisely the kind of emotional upheaval Stoicism warns against. Epictetus reminds us that it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. The envious person tries to manipulate your judgment, making you doubt your own worth. Another danger of the envious person is how their behavior can cause you to lose sight of your own values and principles. In trying to appease them or avoid conflict, you might start downplaying your own accomplishments or becoming less ambitious, fearing their negative reaction. This is a slippery slope as you begin altering your behavior to accommodate their envy, rather than pursuing your own goals and aspirations. Stoicism teaches us to live with integrity, true to our values and character, regardless of how others react. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In this case, the best response to an envious person is to continue living with excellence, unaffected by their negativity. In dealing with envious people, Stoicism suggests maintaining a sense of compassion while also protecting your own peace. Envy, after all, is rooted in dissatisfaction and insecurity. While it's important to acknowledge the struggles of others, it's equally important not to let their issues become your burden. In Julia's case, she could have approached Emma with empathy, offering to share advice or collaborate, but she also needed to set boundaries. Julia's success was not something to apologize for, and by staying true to her values, she could maintain her inner peace without being dragged into the toxic cycle of comparison and resentment. Ultimately, the envious person decreases you rather than increases you because their mindset is rooted in scarcity and insecurity. Their behavior is a reflection of their own dissatisfaction, but their negativity can have a profound impact on those around them. For a Stoic, it's crucial to recognize this influence and protect yourself from its effects. This doesn't mean cutting people off entirely, but it does mean setting firm boundaries and focusing on your own path of growth and virtue. By doing so, you can continue to progress without being weighed down by the destructive force of envy. Number 3. The manipulator. In Stoicism, maintaining control over one's emotions and reactions is crucial to personal growth. However, this becomes increasingly difficult when dealing with the manipulator, a person who seeks to control and exploit others for their own benefit, often without concern for the emotional or mental well-being of their target. Manipulators use subtle tactics, preying on insecurities and emotions to bend people to their will. For someone striving to live a Stoic life, encountering a manipulator can be incredibly harmful, as they disrupt the emotional equilibrium and rationality that Stoicism values. Consider the experience of a young professional named Daniel, who was new to his company and eager to prove himself. His supervisor, Mike, seemed supportive at first, offering guidance and encouragement. However, over time, Mike began to manipulate Daniel into taking on more responsibilities than he could handle. Mike would frame these tasks as opportunities, while subtly implying that Daniel was not doing enough to deserve his praise. Feeling the pressure to meet Mike's expectations, Daniel overextended himself, sacrificing his personal life and mental health. The manipulation was so subtle that Daniel didn't realize it was happening until he was completely burnt out and struggling to maintain his performance at work. Manipulators like Mike use psychological tactics to maintain control over others, often pushing them to go beyond their limits without regard for their well-being. For someone practicing Stoicism, this presents a serious challenge. Stoicism teaches us to recognize what is within our control and what is not. However, manipulators create an environment where it becomes difficult to discern where your responsibilities end and their manipulations begin. They distort reality to keep you off balance, making it harder for you to remain centered in your values and maintain a sense of inner peace. One of the most damaging aspects of manipulation is how it erodes self-confidence and self-awareness. In Daniel's case, Mike's manipulation made him question his own capabilities. Mike would subtly hint that Daniel wasn't doing enough, planting seeds of doubt that made Daniel feel insecure about his performance. Over time, this undermined Daniel's self-esteem, leading him to work harder and harder to gain Mike's approval, even at the cost of his own well-being. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of self-reliance and inner strength, but manipulators make it difficult to hold on to these virtues. They use your own insecurities against you, creating an emotional dependency that can be hard to break. A key Stoic principle is maintaining emotional detachment from external events and focusing on what we can control. Manipulators, however, thrive on emotional entanglement. They use guilt, fear, and confusion to keep their victims emotionally invested in the relationship. This tactic can be especially effective on people who naturally want to help others or seek approval. For someone following Stoicism, the challenge is to recognize these emotional traps and remain grounded in their own values. It is essential to remember that while you cannot control the actions of the manipulator, you can control how you respond to their tactics. One of the most effective ways a manipulator exerts control is through isolation. By subtly undermining your relationships with others or making you doubt the intentions of those around you, they ensure that you become increasingly dependent on them. In Daniel's case, Mike would often suggest that other colleagues were not as competent or trustworthy, leading Daniel to rely more heavily on Mike for guidance. This tactic is especially insidious because it cuts off avenues of support that could help you see the manipulation for what it is. Stoicism teaches us the value of community and rational discourse, but manipulators seek to isolate you from these resources to maintain their power. Another common tactic of manipulators is shifting blame. When something goes wrong, they deflect responsibility onto others, making their victim feel guilty or responsible for the failure. In Daniel's situation, when a project didn't meet expectations, Mike would subtly imply that Daniel's lack of effort was the reason, even though Mike had not provided adequate support or guidance. This constant shifting of blame not only creates confusion, but also keeps the victim in a state of anxiety, always trying to prove their worth. For a Stoic, accepting responsibility is important, but manipulators distort the concept of responsibility to serve their own ends, making it difficult to maintain a clear sense of accountability. To protect yourself from manipulators, Stoicism advises practicing discernment and setting firm boundaries. This means learning to recognize the signs of manipulation early on and distancing yourself from individuals who use these tactics. It's important to trust your own judgment and not allow someone else to undermine your sense of reality. In Daniel's case, he eventually realized that Mike's guidance was actually a form of control designed to keep him dependent and insecure. Once Daniel acknowledged this, he was able to set boundaries, refuse tasks that were unreasonable, and regain control over his own workload and mental health. Stoicism also teaches us to cultivate an inner sense of worth that is not dependent on the opinions or approval of others. Manipulators, like Mike, exploit the need for external validation. But by focusing on your own values and personal growth, you can resist this manipulation. In the end, Daniel learned that his worth was not determined by Mike's approval, but by his own integrity and effort. By reclaiming his sense of self, Daniel was able to break free from the manipulative cycle and focus on his own professional and personal development. For anyone practicing Stoicism, this is the ultimate goal: maintaining control over your own life and actions, free from the influence of those who seek to decrease you. Number 4. The pessimist. In Stoicism, the pessimist represents a challenge to personal growth and inner tranquility. This person, perpetually focused on the negative side of life, can drain your energy and erode your optimism. They often bring a dark cloud to every situation, not only influencing your mood, but also potentially distorting your perspective. A Stoic mindset teaches us to remain grounded, focusing on what we can control, and maintaining a sense of equanimity, even in the face of difficulties. However, when constantly surrounded by a pessimist, it becomes more challenging to practice these virtues. Consider the story of Sarah, a young entrepreneur who was passionate about her startup business. She had a clear vision, was hardworking, and was determined to make her business thrive. Her friend, Peter, was the exact opposite. No matter the topic, Peter always found something to criticize or be negative about. When Sarah excitedly told him about a new opportunity she had to expand her business, Peter immediately began listing all the reasons why it wouldn't work. "The market is too competitive," he said. "You'll just end up burning out. It's not worth the risk." Over time, Peter's constant negativity began to wear on Sarah. She started second-guessing her decisions and became hesitant to take the bold steps she once embraced with enthusiasm. Pessimists like Peter are skilled at sowing doubt. Even if their concerns are not based on reality, their constant focus on worst-case scenarios can start to influence your thinking. Instead of approaching challenges with a sense of curiosity or optimism, you begin to adopt their view that failure is inevitable. For someone practicing Stoicism, this is dangerous because it distracts you from the Stoic principle of focusing on what is within your control and accepting the rest with grace. The pessimist, however, lives in a world where everything feels out of control, and their worldview can pull you away from your own sense of agency. Another key problem with the pessimist is that their mindset fosters inertia. Stoicism teaches us the importance of action, of moving forward, even in the face of adversity. Pessimists, on the other hand, tend to focus so much on potential problems that they become paralyzed by fear or uncertainty. In Sarah's case, Peter's constant negativity made her question whether she should take any risks at all. He made it seem like any step forward would result in disaster, leading Sarah to hesitate and stall her progress. This inertia is contrary to Stoic wisdom, which emphasizes the importance of doing what you can, regardless of external circumstances. Pessimists also have a tendency to exaggerate difficulties, making challenges seem far more insurmountable than they really are. In Stoicism, we are encouraged to practice premeditation malorum, the premeditation of evils, where we think through potential challenges in advance, not to scare ourselves, but to prepare for adversity with a clear and rational mind. The pessimist, however, distorts this process, turning every potential issue into a catastrophe in their mind. For Sarah, Peter's exaggerated concerns about competition in the market were not based on real data, but rather on his own fear of failure. This not only discouraged her from acting, but also clouded her ability to see solutions that were right in front of her. One of the most insidious effects of being around a pessimist is how their negativity can slowly seep into your own thinking. At first, you may recognize their pessimism for what it is, an overly negative and unrealistic view of the world. But over time, their constant commentary can start to influence how you see things, particularly if you're already in a vulnerable or uncertain place. Sarah, for example, started out confident in her vision, but after repeated conversations with Peter, she found herself thinking, maybe he's right, maybe I'm making a mistake. Once you start doubting your own judgment, it becomes much harder to act with the clarity and conviction that Stoicism encourages. Another issue with pessimists is that they often fail to see the bigger picture. Stoicism teaches us to view life's challenges from a higher perspective, understanding that setbacks are temporary and often opportunities for growth. Pessimists, however, tend to focus on immediate difficulties without considering the long-term benefits of perseverance. In Sarah's case, Peter was so focused on the immediate challenges of expanding her business that he couldn't see the potential rewards down the road. This narrow focus can prevent you from pursuing meaningful opportunities because you become too fixated on short-term problems. The pessimist's influence can also make it difficult to maintain your own emotional equilibrium. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of staying calm and composed, even in difficult situations. However, when you're constantly exposed to someone who is always anxious, worried, or complaining, it becomes harder to maintain that inner peace. Their anxiety can start to affect your own emotional state, pulling you into their world of worry and fear. Sarah found that after spending time with Peter, she felt more anxious and unsure, even when things were going well. This emotional contagion is something Stoics must be especially mindful of, as it can undermine the practice of cultivating serenity and resilience. To manage the influence of a pessimist, Stoicism advises setting firm boundaries and protecting your own mental and emotional space. It's important to recognize that while you cannot control how the pessimist views the world, you can control how much of their negativity you allow into your life. In Sarah's case, she eventually realized that Peter's pessimism was holding her back. and she made a conscious decision to limit their interactions. She started surrounding herself with more positive and supportive people who encouraged her to take risks and pursue her dreams. This allowed her to regain her confidence and move forward with her business with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. Number 5. The gossip. In Stoicism, we are taught to focus on what is within our control and avoid unnecessary distractions. Yet few things are as distracting or damaging as the gossip, a person who thrives on spreading rumors and talking about others behind their backs. Gossips erode trust, create conflict, and can pull you into unnecessary drama. For someone who is striving to live a stoic life, being around a gossip can be incredibly harmful, as it fosters an environment of negativity and dishonesty, which goes against the stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Consider the story of Emily, a diligent and ambitious employee at a marketing firm. She worked closely with a colleague, Lisa, who had a habit of gossiping about everyone in the office. Whenever Lisa had a chance, she would whisper rumors about their boss's personal life or make snide remarks about their co-workers' performance. At first, Emily tried to ignore Lisa's comments, but over time she found herself listening more and even contributing to the conversations. She justified this by telling herself that it was harmless, just a way to fit in with Lisa and stay informed about office dynamics. However, the consequences of participating in gossip became apparent when one of Lisa's rumors about a fellow employee, Jason, reached the wrong ears. The rumor was false, but it led to a significant misunderstanding between Jason and the management team. Jason's reputation suffered, and Emily felt a deep sense of guilt for her involvement, even though she had only listened passively. This incident made her realize that engaging with gossip had not only harmed Jason, but had also pulled her away from the Stoic principles she valued, principles of honesty, fairness, and focusing on what is productive and good. One of the most damaging aspects of gossip is how it corrupts your own sense of integrity. Stoicism teaches us to act in alignment with our highest values, but gossip forces you into a position where you are constantly judging and criticizing others. Even if you're just listening, you're allowing your mind to be consumed by unproductive thoughts and negative judgments about people who may not even deserve them. Emily's experience with Lisa showed her how easy it was to fall into this trap, and how much it distracted her from her own personal growth and work. The problem with gossips is that they often seem harmless at first. They may approach you with a juicy bit of information or an interesting story, framing it as just between us or something you should know. But over time, this behavior starts to erode trust, not just with the person they are talking about, but with you as well. After the incident with Jason, Emily realized that if Lisa was willing to gossip about others, she was probably gossiping about her too. This realization shattered the trust Emily had in her colleague, leaving her feeling paranoid and uncertain about whom she could trust in the office. Gossiping also encourages a focus on things that are outside of our control, which goes directly against Stoic teachings. In Stoicism, we are taught to focus on our own actions and attitudes, not the behavior of others. When you engage in gossip, you're directing your attention toward things that have nothing to do with your own growth or progress. For Emily, spending time gossiping with Lisa meant she was neglecting her own work and personal development. Instead of focusing on her career goals or how to improve her own skills, she was wasting time on petty discussions about her co-workers' lives. Another harmful effect of gossip is how it fosters division and resentment among people. Gossips like Lisa thrive on creating conflict, often by pitting people against one another. In Emily's office, Lisa's constant gossiping created an atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion. Co-workers who might have worked well together began to doubt each other's intentions, and small misunderstandings quickly escalated into larger conflicts. Stoicism teaches us to promote harmony and justice, but gossip works in direct opposition to these ideals by breeding discord and animosity. It's also important to recognize that gossips often have their own hidden agendas. They might spread rumors to make themselves look better, to gain favor with certain people, or to manipulate situations to their advantage. In Emily's case, she eventually realized that Lisa's gossiping was a way for her to control the narrative at the office and position herself as an insider with privileged information. By listening to Lisa's gossip, Emily was unknowingly participating in this manipulation, helping Lisa gain more influence in the office. Stoicism teaches us to act with integrity and honesty, but gossips use deception and manipulation to achieve their goals. To distance herself from this negative influence, Emily decided to take a step back from her relationship with Lisa. She recognized that being around a gossip was harmful to her own sense of integrity and her relationships with others. Emily started focusing more on her work and her personal development, aligning her actions with the Stoic principles of honesty, justice, and focusing on what is within her control. She also made a conscious effort to avoid participating in gossip, whether by listening or contributing. This decision helped her regain a sense of peace and clarity, as she was no longer pulled into the drama and negativity that gossip breeds. By removing herself from the toxic influence of gossip, Emily was able to cultivate better relationships with her co-workers based on trust and respect. She found that by focusing on her own actions and staying true to her values, she became more confident and productive at work. Her experience with Lisa taught her a valuable lesson. Gossip not only decreases your sense of integrity, but it also creates an environment of negativity and mistrust that can harm both your personal and professional life. Through Stoicism, Emily learned to rise above the distractions of gossip and focus on what truly matters, her own growth and the pursuit of a life aligned with virtue. If you found this video helpful, please like it and drop your comments below. We want to hear your experiences. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more empowering content and share this video with friends who might benefit from it. Let's build a community focused on growth and positivity together. Let's continue our journey. Number 6. The inconsistent friend. In Stoicism, stability and consistency are important virtues, fostering reliability and trust in relationships. However, when dealing with an inconsistent friend, we are faced with a challenge that can lead to frustration, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. The inconsistent friend is someone who is unreliable, whose words and actions never seem to align, and whose presence in your life is sporadic at best. Such a person can hinder your personal growth and distract you from the Stoic virtues of self-discipline, responsibility, and emotional resilience. Take the story of James, a dedicated and hard-working man who had a long-time friend, Paul. Paul was charismatic and fun to be around, but he was also notoriously inconsistent. He would often make promises, such as plans to meet up or assist with a project, only to cancel at the last minute or forget entirely. Whenever James confronted Paul about his behavior, Paul would apologize profusely, making even more promises of being reliable in the future. Yet, the cycle would repeat. James began to realize that Paul's inconsistency was not just a minor flaw. It was having a significant impact on his own well-being and progress. One of the key issues with an inconsistent friend is that they rob you of stability. In Stoicism, consistency is a cornerstone of virtuous living. You aim to be steady in your emotions, reliable in your actions, and consistent in your commitments. When you're dealing with someone who constantly changes their mind, cancels plans, or fails to keep their promises, it becomes difficult to maintain that same consistency. For James, trying to rely on Paul for support or companionship became a source of frustration, as he never knew if Paul would follow through. This unpredictability eroded the trust between them, making it hard for James to rely on Paul as a true friend. Another major issue with inconsistent friends is how their behavior often reflects a lack of respect for your time and priorities. Stoicism teaches us to value our time and use it wisely, recognizing that it is one of our most precious resources. Inconsistent friends, however, often waste your time by making plans they have no intention of keeping, or by showing up only when it's convenient for them. James often rearranged his schedule to accommodate Paul's requests, only to be left waiting or disappointed when Paul cancelled at the last moment. This not only wasted James's time, but also made him feel undervalued. The emotional toll of dealing with an inconsistent friend can be immense. In Stoicism, we strive to maintain emotional balance and not be swayed by external forces. However, inconsistent friends create a roller coaster of emotions. One moment, they might be fully present and engaged, making you feel valued and important. The next, they disappear without explanation, leaving you feeling confused and hurt. For James, Paul's behavior left him constantly guessing, wondering whether their friendship was as important to Paul as it was to him. This emotional inconsistency took a toll on James's peace of mind, making it harder for him to focus on his own growth and responsibilities. Inconsistent friends also create an environment of uncertainty, which can be detrimental to your goals and progress. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, but an inconsistent friend constantly pulls you into situations that are beyond your control. James, for example, found that he was always on edge, waiting to see if Paul would actually follow through on his promises. This uncertainty distracted James from his own goals and projects, as he was often preoccupied with wondering whether Paul would show up or keep his word. This constant distraction prevented James from fully focusing on his own development and achieving his potential. It's important to recognize that the behavior of an inconsistent friend often stems from deeper issues, such as a lack of self-awareness, responsibility, or emotional maturity. Stoicism teaches us to practice self-discipline and be accountable for our actions, but inconsistent friends often lack these qualities. They may not see the harm they're causing or understand the importance of reliability in relationships. For James, it became clear that Paul's inconsistency was a reflection of his own internal struggles, such as his inability to manage his time or prioritize his relationships. While James empathized with Paul, he also recognized that he couldn't allow Paul's lack of discipline to negatively impact his own life. Inconsistent friends can also diminish your sense of self-worth. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of cultivating inner strength and not relying on external validation. However, when you're constantly dealing with someone who is unreliable, it can start to affect how you see yourself. James began to question whether he was worthy of Paul's time and attention, wondering if there was something wrong with him that made Paul treat him this way. It took James some time to realize that Paul's behavior had nothing to do with his own value as a person. It was simply a reflection of Paul's inconsistency and lack of commitment. The best way to handle an inconsistent friend from a Stoic perspective is to set clear boundaries and focus on what is within your control. James realized that he couldn't change Paul's behavior, but he could control how he responded to it. He stopped rearranging his schedule for Paul and set limits on how much time and energy he was willing to invest in the friendship. By doing this, James was able to regain his sense of stability and focus on his own growth. He also learned to accept Paul for who he was, without expecting more from him than he was capable of giving. Number 7. The criticizer. In the philosophy of Stoicism, one of the most critical principles is focusing on what is within your control and letting go of what is not. However, when dealing with the criticizer, someone who constantly points out your flaws, critiques your decisions, and undermines your confidence, you're often pushed into a state of self-doubt. The constant critic can decrease your self-worth and progress instead of fostering a healthy environment for personal growth. These people thrive on negativity, and their constant criticisms can be incredibly draining, pulling you away from the Stoic virtues of self-discipline, confidence, and resilience. Consider the story of Sarah, a young woman who had recently started her own small business. She worked tirelessly to grow her venture, excited about every small victory along the way. However, her older brother, David, had a habit of nitpicking everything she did. No matter how hard Sarah worked, David always found something to criticize. If she managed to secure a new client, David would downplay it, claiming that she wasn't aiming high enough. If she tried a new marketing strategy, David would immediately point out its flaws. Instead of celebrating her successes, he constantly focused on what she could have done better. Over time, Sarah began to internalize these criticisms. She found herself second-guessing every decision she made, not out of wisdom or caution, but out of fear that David would find something wrong. Stoicism teaches us to trust in our own judgment and to be confident in our abilities, but the presence of a constant critic made this difficult for Sarah. Rather than focusing on her own path and growth, she became consumed with trying to please David or avoid his critiques altogether. This drained her emotionally and stifled her creativity, making it harder for her to make progress in her business. The problem with the criticizer is that they often mask their negative feedback as helpful advice or constructive criticism, but their constant focus on the negative aspects of your life can have a profound impact on your mental state. Stoicism encourages us to welcome constructive criticism when it helps us grow, but when criticism is relentless and unbalanced, it becomes toxic. Sarah tried to take David's feedback in stride at first, telling herself that he was just trying to help her improve. However, she soon realized that no matter how much she tried to implement his advice, David would always find something new to criticize. This constant negativity began to wear her down, making her question her own competence and worth. One of the most harmful aspects of dealing with a criticizer is how their behavior can undermine your sense of self-efficacy, the belief in your own ability to achieve your goals. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate inner strength and resilience, but the criticizer chips away at this by constantly pointing out your perceived shortcomings. For Sarah, every conversation with David left her feeling less capable than before. She began to hesitate before taking any action, paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake that David would criticize. This self-doubt became a major obstacle to her progress as she stopped trusting her own instincts and judgment. The behavior of the criticizer often stems from their own insecurities or need for control. In Stoicism, we are taught to avoid projecting our own fears and inadequacies onto others, but the criticizer does the opposite. They use criticism as a way to feel superior or to control the narrative in a relationship. In David's case, his constant critiques of Sarah's business were a way for him to assert his authority and feel more knowledgeable than her. However, instead of helping Sarah, his behavior only served to diminish her confidence and motivation. Recognizing this pattern was the first step for Sarah in understanding that David's criticism had less to do with her actions and more to do with his need to feel important. Dealing with a criticizer can also have a ripple effect on other areas of your life. Stoicism encourages us to maintain emotional equilibrium and not be swayed by the opinions of others, but the criticizer's constant negativity can make this incredibly difficult. Sarah found that her interactions with David began to affect not only her business, but also her personal relationships. She became more defensive in conversations with friends and family, anticipating criticism even when none was intended. This constant state of emotional tension made it difficult for her to relax and enjoy her personal life, as she was always bracing herself for the next critique. To handle a criticizer from a Stoic perspective, it's essential to set boundaries and maintain a clear understanding of what is within your control. Sarah eventually realized that she couldn't change David's behavior, but she could control how much she allowed his words to affect her. She made the decision to distance herself from David's constant feedback and focused instead on trusting her own judgment. By doing this, Sarah regained a sense of control over her life and her business, allowing her to make decisions with confidence rather than fear. This shift in mindset helped her become more resilient in the face of criticism, aligning her actions with the Stoic virtue of self-discipline. Another important lesson from Stoicism is learning to distinguish between valuable feedback and destructive criticism. Not all criticism is harmful, and sometimes it can be an opportunity for growth. However, the criticizer's feedback often lacks balance, focusing only on what's wrong without offering constructive solutions. Sarah realized that David's criticism was rarely helpful. It was more about pointing out flaws than offering guidance. By learning to filter out destructive criticism, Sarah was able to focus on feedback that genuinely helped her grow, while letting go of the negativity that only served to hold her back. Number 8. The self-absorbed. In Stoicism, one of the core teachings is the importance of relationships and mutual respect. The Stoics believe in cultivating strong, virtuous connections based on empathy, understanding, and reciprocity. However, the self-absorbed, a person who is excessively focused on themselves, often disrupts this balance. They can drain the energy and time of those around them, diminishing rather than increasing their well-being. This type of individual is constantly preoccupied with their own needs, successes, and problems, leaving little room to support or truly connect with others. Being around them can prevent personal growth and emotional stability, which is essential in living a Stoic life. Consider the experience of Lisa, a compassionate and empathetic individual who was friends with Michelle, a classic example of someone self-absorbed. Michelle constantly talked about her own life, her work, and her social activities. Every conversation was centered around Michelle's achievements, struggles, or desires. Lisa noticed that whenever she tried to share something about her own life, whether it was an exciting opportunity or a personal difficulty, Michelle would quickly steer the conversation back to herself. Over time, Lisa began to feel neglected and unimportant in the friendship, as it became clear that Michelle was more interested in her own story than in fostering a mutual connection. The problem with the self-absorbed person is that they rarely offer support or genuine interest in others. In Stoicism, we learn that a virtuous person contributes positively to those around them, lifting others up and offering help when needed. Yet, the self-absorbed person is focused solely on what they can gain from the relationship, often neglecting the needs and feelings of those around them. Lisa, for example, found herself constantly giving to Michelle, whether it was her time, attention, or emotional support, without receiving anything in return. This unbalanced dynamic drained Lisa emotionally, leaving her feeling depleted and unfulfilled. Another key issue with the self-absorbed person is that they often undermine the development of meaningful, two-sided relationships. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of mutual respect and understanding, where each person in a relationship is seen as an equal participant. However, the self-absorbed person tends to dominate interactions, leaving little room for others to express themselves or be heard. In Lisa's case, her friendship with Michelle became increasingly one-sided as Michelle monopolized their conversations and rarely asked Lisa how she was doing. This lack of reciprocity eroded the trust and connection between them, making Lisa feel more like a spectator in Michelle's life rather than a valued friend. A particularly prominent incident occurred when Lisa was going through a difficult time at work. She had been passed over for a promotion she had worked hard for and was feeling disheartened. Wanting to talk to someone about it, she reached out to Michelle for support. However, instead of offering comfort or advice, Michelle immediately began talking about her own work struggles, comparing her situation to Lisa's and highlighting how much harder her own life was. This blatant disregard for Lisa's feelings made her realize just how self-centered Michelle had become. Lisa felt invisible and unheard, as Michelle had turned what should have been a supportive moment into yet another opportunity to focus on herself. The self-absorbed individual also struggles with empathy, which is a fundamental virtue in Stoicism. Stoics teach that understanding and empathizing with others are crucial for building strong and virtuous relationships. Yet, the self-absorbed person often lacks the ability or willingness to see things from another's perspective. Michelle, for instance, rarely tried to understand Lisa's feelings or experiences. Even when Lisa would express her frustrations or emotions, Michelle would either dismiss them or twist the conversation back to her own experiences. This lack of empathy left Lisa feeling isolated, as it became clear that Michelle was more concerned with her own narrative than with truly connecting with others. One of the most damaging effects of being around a self-absorbed person is the way they diminish your sense of self-worth. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate inner strength and not rely on external validation. But it can be difficult to maintain confidence when someone is constantly overshadowing your thoughts and experiences. Lisa noticed that after spending time with Michelle, she often felt small and insignificant, as though her own life didn't matter as much. This emotional toll gradually eroded Lisa's self-esteem, making her question her own value in the friendship. The more Michelle dominated their interactions, the more Lisa felt diminished. Dealing with a self-absorbed person also presents a significant challenge in maintaining emotional balance, which is a central tenet of Stoicism. Stoics believe in remaining calm and centered, even in difficult situations, and not allowing external circumstances to disturb your inner peace. However, being around someone who is constantly self-centered can create feelings of frustration and resentment. Lisa found herself growing increasingly irritated by Michelle's inability to focus on anything other than herself. This emotional strain disrupted Lisa's ability to stay calm and composed, as she found it harder to practice the Stoic virtue of emotional equanimity in Michelle's presence. Ultimately, the best way to handle a self-absorbed person is to establish firm boundaries, something Stoicism strongly advocates. Lisa realized that she could not change Michelle's behavior, but she could control how much time and energy she invested in the friendship. By distancing herself from Michelle's constant self-centeredness, Lisa was able to regain her emotional balance and focus on her own growth. She also learned the importance of surrounding herself with people who valued reciprocity and mutual respect, key principles in Stoic philosophy. Through this experience, Lisa was reminded that true friendships are built on a foundation of equality and shared understanding, not one-sided conversations and emotional neglect. Number 9. The dependent person. In the realm of Stoicism, personal growth and resilience are essential for achieving inner peace. However, navigating relationships with the dependent person, someone who relies heavily on others for emotional, financial, or social support, can drain your energy and hinder your development. This type of individual often seeks validation and assistance in an unhealthy way, making it difficult for those around them to thrive. Being in the company of such individuals can diminish your sense of autonomy and strength, which are central tenets of Stoic philosophy. Take the case of Tom, a kind-hearted man who was always willing to help others. He enjoyed being there for his friends and family, often stepping in to lend a hand or offer support. However, he had a close friend named Jake who epitomized dependency. Jake often relied on Tom for everything, from emotional support to financial assistance. Whenever Jake faced a problem, he would immediately turn to Tom, expecting him to solve it. This constant reliance began to wear on Tom, as he felt a growing sense of obligation to always be there for Jake, even when he was overwhelmed with his own responsibilities. Over time, Tom began to feel increasingly burdened by Jake's dependency. Whenever they would meet, instead of engaging in meaningful conversations, Jake would launch into a monologue about his problems, always waiting for Tom to provide solutions. This pattern left little room for Tom to share his own thoughts or experiences. Instead of enjoying their friendship, Tom felt as if he were merely a crutch for Jake. This dynamic drained Tom's energy and left him feeling resentful, as he realized he could not rely on Jake for support or companionship. The issue with the dependent person is that their reliance on others can create an imbalanced relationship, which undermines the Stoic ideal of mutual respect and reciprocity. Tom found himself in a position where he was constantly giving while receiving very little in return. In Stoicism, the value of a relationship is often determined by its balance and mutual benefit. The more Jake leaned on Tom, the more Tom began to feel like a one-sided support system. He often felt neglected and unimportant, as Jake's constant focus on his own struggles overshadowed Tom's needs and feelings. A particularly notable incident occurred when Tom was preparing for an important work presentation. He had spent weeks organizing his thoughts and creating a detailed plan to present to his colleagues. Excited and nervous, Tom shared his preparations with Jake, hoping for some encouragement and support. Instead, Jake immediately pivoted the conversation to his own latest crisis, a falling out with a mutual friend. Tom listened, but as the minutes passed, he realized that Jake was oblivious to the importance of the moment for Tom. This lack of awareness not only frustrated Tom, but also deepened his sense of isolation in the friendship. The incident highlighted Jake's self-centeredness and further revealed how dependent individuals often lack empathy for others. Another significant problem with dependency is that it can stifle personal growth for both individuals involved. In Stoicism, self-sufficiency and resilience are essential virtues, but when one person is overly dependent on another, it can inhibit the development of both parties. Tom noticed that Jake had stopped pursuing his own interests and goals, relying entirely on Tom for motivation and guidance. As a result, Jake's personal growth stagnated, leaving him unable to cultivate his own skills and strengths. This dynamic frustrated Tom even more, as he wanted to encourage Jake to stand on his own 2 feet, but felt trapped in a cycle of enabling dependency. Moreover, the dependent person often struggles with taking responsibility for their own life. Stoicism teaches that we should own our decisions and face the consequences of our actions. However, Jake consistently avoided accountability, opting instead to pass his challenges on to Tom. Whenever something went wrong, Jake would blame external circumstances or look to Tom for solutions rather than reflecting on his own role in the situation. This lack of accountability not only inhibited Jake's personal growth, but also placed an undue burden on Tom, who felt responsible for fixing Jake's problems. Navigating a relationship with a dependent person also poses challenges in maintaining one's emotional equilibrium. In Stoicism, maintaining a state of emotional balance is crucial to achieving inner peace. However, Tom found himself increasingly stressed and anxious due to Jake's demands. Whenever he would see a message or call from Jake, Tom would feel a sense of dread, knowing that it would likely involve yet another crisis. This constant emotional strain made it difficult for Tom to focus on his own life and goals. He realized that being around Jake was draining his energy and undermining his own emotional well-being. To address this situation, Tom recognized the need to establish boundaries. Stoicism teaches that while we should be compassionate and supportive, we also have the right to protect our own well-being. Tom made the difficult decision to have an honest conversation with Jake about their friendship. He expressed his feelings of overwhelm and emphasized the importance of both individuals contributing to their relationship. While Jake initially reacted defensively, he eventually began to understand the impact of his dependency on Tom. This conversation marked a turning point in their friendship, as Tom encouraged Jake to seek more independence and find ways to solve his own problems. As a result of this dialogue, Jake started taking steps towards self-sufficiency. He began attending workshops to develop his skills and even sought therapy to address his dependency issues. Tom felt a sense of relief and empowerment as he had taken control of his own emotional landscape while encouraging Jake to grow. Through this process, both men learned valuable lessons about the importance of independence and mutual respect in a relationship. Tom discovered that it was possible to support a friend while also prioritizing his own well-being, embodying the Stoic values of balance and self-care. Number 10. The constant complainer. In the journey of personal growth and self-improvement, the people we surround ourselves with play a crucial role. Some individuals inspire us, motivate us, and help us move forward in life. Others, unfortunately, do the opposite. One of the most damaging types of individuals, according to Stoic philosophy, is the constant complainer. These are people who never seem to find satisfaction, endlessly grumbling about their lives, circumstances, and the world around them. While it's natural to vent occasionally, constant complainers live in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. This mindset can have a profound impact on those around them, slowly draining their energy and dampening their enthusiasm for life. Stoicism, the ancient philosophy founded by thinkers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, teaches us the importance of inner peace, rational thought, and focusing on what we can control. Constant complainers are antithetical to these principles. They often focus on things outside of their control, leading to a cycle of frustration and helplessness. But more importantly, their constant negativity can pull others into their vortex of despair, sapping emotional and mental strength. One of the key tenets of Stoicism is that our inner peace is ours to maintain, regardless of external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet, when faced with constant complainers, it becomes increasingly difficult to stay centered. Their constant negative outlook can seep into your thoughts, making you more susceptible to focusing on the things that are going wrong in your own life. Even if you were initially in a good mental space, the continuous exposure to someone else's grievances can slowly shift your perspective toward a more negative view of the world. For example, let's say you have a friend who constantly complains about their job. Every time you meet, they go on and on about how their boss is unfair, their workload is unmanageable, or their colleagues are difficult. Initially, you might offer solutions or encouragement, but over time, you begin to notice that you, too, start to focus more on the negatives in your own job. Even if you were previously content, the constant focus on dissatisfaction can shift your mindset, making it harder to maintain a positive or neutral perspective. In Stoicism, the key to maintaining inner peace is focusing on what is within your control and accepting what is not. Constant complainers, however, often fixate on what they cannot control, other people's behavior, circumstances, or even fate. By spending too much time with these individuals, you risk adopting their worldview, one where life is something that happens to you rather than something you actively shape. This passive, victim-like mindset is completely contrary to Stoic teachings, which emphasize personal responsibility and resilience. Stoicism does not suggest that we should ignore or avoid people in need of help. Compassion and understanding are important Stoic values. However, it does emphasize the importance of maintaining healthy boundaries. Constant complainers often do not seek solutions. They simply want to vent. While it's important to listen to others and offer support, it's equally important to recognize when someone's complaints are no longer productive and are instead becoming a drain on your own well-being. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we must be careful about the influences we allow into our lives. He said, "If a person gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would certainly be angry. And do you feel no shame in handing over your own mind to whoever happens to criticize you, so that it is tossed about and disturbed?" In the case of constant complainers, the danger lies in handing over your peace of mind to someone who is constantly dissatisfied. One way to counteract the influence of constant complainers is to shift the focus of your interactions from problems to solutions. Stoicism teaches us to take action where we can, rather than simply lamenting what's wrong. If a friend or colleague is constantly complaining, try to steer the conversation toward finding solutions. Ask them what steps they've taken to address the issue or what changes they could make to improve their situation. By focusing on solutions, you not only help the other person break free from their cycle of complaints, but also reinforce your own Stoic mindset. In Stoicism, complaining without action is considered futile. The philosophy encourages us to accept what we cannot change and work to improve what we can. By promoting this mindset in your interactions with constant complainers, you reinforce your own commitment to Stoic principles and help others move toward a more proactive and solution-oriented way of thinking. Ultimately, the lesson that Stoicism offers when dealing with constant complainers is the importance of protecting your inner peace. The Stoics believed that tranquility of mind is one of the highest goods, and they encouraged us to seek this tranquility through rational thought, acceptance of what we cannot control, and focus on what we can. Constant complainers challenge this tranquility by bombarding us with negativity and pulling our attention away from what truly matters. While it's important to show compassion and understanding, it's equally important to recognize when someone's negativity is beginning to impact your own mindset and energy. By setting boundaries, focusing on solutions, and maintaining a firm grasp on your own thoughts and emotions, you can navigate your relationships with constant complainers without sacrificing your own well-being. In the end, Stoicism teaches us that we have the power to choose how we respond to the people around us, and that choosing wisely is the key to maintaining peace, both within ourselves and in our relationships. Conclusion. As we wrap up our exploration of the 10 types of people that decrease you instead of increasing you through the lens of Stoicism, it's essential to reflect on the wisdom this philosophy offers regarding our relationships. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control others, we can control our responses and the company we choose to keep. Understanding this is crucial for nurturing our mental and emotional well-being. Throughout our discussion, we've highlighted various negative influences, such as the constant complainer, the drama seeker, and the manipulator. Each type serves as a reminder that our surroundings significantly impact our mindset and outlook on life. For example, The constant complainer can create an environment steeped in negativity, making it hard to celebrate victories or appreciate life's beauty. Similarly, the drama seeker thrives on chaos, drawing us into unnecessary conflicts that can drain our energy and distract us from our goals. Now think about the criticizer and the self-absorbed individuals. Their constant need for judgment or focus on themselves can stifle your growth and undermine your self-esteem. These types not only sap your energy, but can also lead you to question your self-worth and achievements. Stoicism urges us to reflect on how these interactions affect our inner peace and confidence. Moreover, we can't overlook the impact of the pessimist or the envious person. Their negativity can cloud our judgment and make it challenging to appreciate our own successes. In the face of such attitudes, Stoicism encourages us to remember that external opinions should not dictate our self-worth. Instead, we should seek to cultivate a mindset focused on our values and virtues, which are unaffected by others' negativity. A powerful takeaway from our journey through these toxic types is the importance of setting boundaries. Recognizing who drains your energy allows you to make conscious choices about whom to spend your time with. By distancing yourself from these negative influences, you open the door to more uplifting relationships. Surround yourself with those who inspire you and encourage your growth, fostering an environment of positivity and support. As we strive for personal growth and fulfillment, it's also essential to practice self-awareness. Being mindful of our own behaviors can prevent us from becoming the very people we've discussed. For instance, while it's easy to fall into the role of the constant complainer, we must be cautious and self-reflective. Stoicism teaches us that we can choose to focus on solutions rather than problems, and this mindset not only benefits us, but also those around us. We encourage you to implement the Stoic principles we've discussed, focusing on your values, setting boundaries, and nurturing positive relationships. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit from these insights. Together, let's create a supportive community that fosters growth, positivity, and meaningful connections. Remember, you have the power to shape your life and the relationships within it. Choose wisely.